disappears.
Oh my God.
Not
So,
good.
so hopefully, Brandy, we're good on the notice that we have. Says YouTube Live anyway, so we should be okay.
Oh, I thought it said Facebook. I'm sorry. Okay.
That's fine.
Are we good to go then?
Yes.
Okay.
I got to hit record here. Hold on.
It says recording. It says
Yep,
recording
okay,
and live on
okay.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have a gavel, but let's call this meeting to order. We first need to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was March 9th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Mayor Boley.
Hold on 1 second.
What's going on, Brandy?
I have to shut off.
Oh, because yeah, you're
I'm
getting
looping.
duplicated. You're looping.
Yeah. Yeah.
We won't tell anyone.
Hold on just a second.
Looping.
Okay.
I-N-G.
Okay, good. I'm glad you clarified that.
Okay. We should be good now.
okay.
Okay.
Prior to improving the minutes, I wanted to introduce Alderman Chevalier. We did have an election since the last time we've met. Alderman Chevalier is our longest serving alderman at this point now. He has not served on P&Z before. So welcome to Alderman Chevalier. And also I moved to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Mayor. Who was that? Carmen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for recognizing Alderman Chevalier, Mr. Mayor. Okay, we need a vote then to approve the minutes. Let's see.
Yep. We need to do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Abstain.
I'm sorry. That was Alderman Chevalier?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay,
That's passed.
let's move on then to the staff report. Jack.
Couple of quick report items. We're still at 25 single family home permits since January 1st. Keeping in mind that last year we had a total of 50 for the entire year. So we're a little bit ahead of the game, which is a good thing. There are some broader picture issues that I want to throw out to you so you have them in your mind. It may be coming up. We don't know. President Biden has discussed potentially putting a executive order out that relates to federal funding, and then as it relates to what's called inclusionary or exclusionary zoning. We have a staggered system in place that could be considered to be exclusionary zoning, but some of the stuff we're working with tonight addresses those issues. So ultimately, that federal funding executive order, if he does sign it, could potentially impact how we are federally funded on items. We'll have to see that. But if you Google inclusionary or exclusionary zoning, you can start getting some understanding of what that means. Wanted it to be out there so that you're aware of the issue, and it may impact us at some point in the future. And then the Board of Aldermen, in November of last year, when it adopted its most recent iteration of the International Property Maintenance Code, adopted a staff recommendation related to people parking their cars in grass areas just for parking purposes at their home, whether it's wherever it happens to be, and the problems that creates for bringing mud in the streets and not getting mowed around items and causing various and sundry issues. The Board of Aldermen adopted that. And I wanted to highlight to you that we have a very old zoning code provision related to RV parking, which says they can park in grass. Now, the old stuff is a zoning law. The new stuff is nuisance. So they're absolutely separate and distinct. And the newer one prevails always. So the question I will ultimately throw out to you all in the coming months is whether we abrogate the zoning ordinance as it relates to that and just get rid of it, and not address it at all as to where they park or otherwise. The last time the Planning Commission brought it up, it was in 2005. It was brought up as a commercial vehicle parking issue. And somehow or other, it got convoluted into RV parking and where it is. So it was a convoluted process. There are people that are on both sides of the issue, and they're very vocal, whether parking RVs in the street, not in the street, in the grass, not in the grass. It's a substantially controversial issue we'll need to look at. The other aspect is we have provisions in our code currently that prohibit commercial vehicles from parking overnight in the residential districts, but only on the streets. So you can't park a tractor trailer rig in a residential district on the street. If you can fit it in your driveway, you can park it there though. So I want you to kind of think about those issues and see if it's something we want to address as it relates to those commercial vehicle parking in driveways or anywhere in the district. That would be a zoning issue we'd have to address. It'd be a zoning uses issue, and we could address it there if it's a concern for the commissioners to look at. I know it's been, we get regular complaints about people parking commercial vehicles in residential districts, either in the streets or on the driveways. So as it relates to that, I wanted to, from a staff report perspective, those will be some of the issues that you maybe need to think about for future meetings. Other than that, I'll answer any questions I can as it relates to development.
Well, Jack, do you foresee an additional bullet on those 8 items that we use as tools to determine the propriety of a zoning? There might be an additional one that would clarify and not allow winds of change. I mean, it just seems so vague. I just thought that.
On what issue are you speaking of, Carmen?
We're talking about the possibility of nuisance versus zoning.
Okay, well now
That's where I'm at in terms of, are you suggesting that heretofore we will have an additional concern?
No,
For
absolutely.
assessment. Okay.
I was more discussing the zoning powers of the governing body and the police powers of the governing body.
Okay.
Police powers are the nuisance laws. The zoning powers are under the zoning ordinance and the zoning laws. They are 2 different powers under the U.S. and Missouri constitutions. And when they're reviewed by courts, they have different standards that the courts use, strict scrutiny, or, there's various levels of review. So they have different views, but the latter ordinance or the latter law always takes precedence. So the nuisance laws, it's assumed that the Board of Aldermen were aware of all the other laws that they had on the books when they passed one. And you can pass one in that fashion because it's a police power versus a zoning power. The board, and the reason I say this is because the Board of Aldermen independently does not have the authority to unilaterally move to change the zoning. They have to at least get a recommendation from you. They don't have to follow any recommendation from this commission, but they have to at least hear it, unless it's a nuisance. So I just wanted to clarify that issue.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Alderman Chevalier, did you get the permit numbers from that Jack stated? So we have those for the Alderman meeting.
I believe you said 25, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And how many commercial?
I didn't look that up, Mr. Mayor, but we have several commercial projects around the city. They're all undergoing construction at the same time. So we have several of them open. the Burger King has pulled its permit. It's live. The Pizza Hut, not Pizza Hut, the Domino's Pizza has pulled its permit. It has not started construction yet inside the building. Those are the two most recent. And I anticipate the medical marijuana facility will be coming before this board for a site plan shortly. I also anticipate there will be likely a site plan change at the KCI RV Center for some different uses in various areas as it relates to that. And then the attic storage is preparing their paperwork, and I think we've already given them the permit information to start the construction of the secondary buildings in the back. And you can anticipate they will be coming forward for a further subdivision of land related to, sorry, I don't know if you can, subdivision of their land into some separate lots so that the medical marijuana dispensary can sell there, or have a separate lot for it, and around the back of that as well. So that's what's going on off the top of my head. But there's several things already under construction. I think most of them got their permits last year, though.
Yeah, in a Herzog, I know they're moving pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, will that phase 2 come to us, or does that just go to you guys?
The phase 2 will come to you for the layout site plan approval related to the proposed cabins in the back. They were on the original as a potential future, but there wasn't enough information for you all to consider. So we did not include them as any part of the site plan, simply because they had rectangles drawn over there where they were going to put them potentially. And that has changed either way. So
Yeah, I saw the drawings. They look nice.
Well, would you remind us too, Jack, that the strip mall where they took it down piece by piece and never saw anything like it? What is going in there?
Blank field, probably a couple bird nests. You know, it is. If you got some money, it's probably for sale. I think there's a sign on it.
I kind of
Yeah.
heard that.
there is nothing reported to me that they have anyone signed up. I know there are several people that have been pretty close to getting a deal done, but haven't got the deal done. So ultimately that permit for demolition was issued in June of last year. And thanks to some work and phone calls and emails from Brandy, the building is finally gone.
I think iSmith is going there.
Is that right? Okay, then.
I think Eric Craig's gonna build out some porta potties on
Yeah.
that space.
High density,
Good.
1 bedroom, half bath.
Good. We'll have potties at
I'm
iSmith.
good.
That's great.
I'm in the middle of it.
Affordable housing.
Yeah. Anything else on the staff report, Jack?
No, nope. That's all I have. Again, if
Okay.
you have questions, I'll answer questions I can, but no, nothing more.
Okay. Let's go then to the zoning changes here. Jack, would you give us a brief preview of what that is?
Sure. Back in February, the meeting before the last meeting, we had an identical scenario with 4 different lots in the Lakeside Crossings subdivision. What we need to do today is open a public hearing for separate ones for each of the 4 lots. I see no one here to speak on them. And then once we hold the public hearings and open them and close them, since no one's here, we will be able to go into Article 5 on the agenda, which is the actual zoning. These were recently annexed, so they have to have their initial zoning set. The proposal is to set them at R1B like every other lot in the subdivision, excluding 2. There are 2 lots that have not yet annexed.
Okay. Then let's move ahead with that. We will open the public hearing for the property 2416 Northeast 157th Terrace. Seeing no one. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this matter? We see no one, so we will close that hearing. And now we will open up a hearing for 15719 North Chestnut Street. Is there anyone here to speak on that matter? Seeing none, we will close that hearing and open the public hearing for 2224 Northeast 158th Street. Is there anyone to speak on that property, this matter? Seeing none, we will close that hearing. And we will open another one for 2402 Northeast 158th Street. Is there anyone here to speak on that? There is not, so we will close that hearing. Now, we also have a draft ordinance and findings of fact from staff on this matter. In order to open this matter for discussion, can I have a motion to approve the proposed findings of fact?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. At this point then, does anyone want to discuss these proposed findings? Remember, we can propose to amend any of these findings based upon the public comments and information you have before you. Discussion. Any discussion? Seeing none, then let's hold a vote. Hold a vote. Brandy.
All right, Deb,
Aye.
Mayor Boley,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Rand,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Alderman Chevalier,
Aye.
Carmen,
Aye.
7-0.
Okay. Then let's go to agenda item number 6. We'll open a public hearing. It's amending the sections 400.090 to 400.150 of the zoning code that we spent quite a bit of time on at our last meeting. Is there anyone here to speak to this matter? Is that you, Eric?
Still muted, Eric.
I don't see his lips.
I'm
moving.
sorry. Say that one more time, Rand. I apologize.
Okay, I just opened a public hearing on the ordinance amending the sections 400 and so forth of the zoning code pertaining to dwelling unit sizes and so on that we worked on at the last meeting. And I'm asking, is there anyone to speak to this matter? And I'm assuming that would be you.
Yeah, I do have some insight. I appreciate you giving me that opportunity. Obviously, all of you probably are aware of increasing material cost and what that's doing and affecting the market. On a majority of our homes, just in simple lumber increases, we've seen anywhere on the light end of $35,000 to $60,000 increases in pricing just for the same homes that we were building 12 months ago. So I don't foresee, a lot of this to change. You're kind of seeing things kind of domino effect with other materials along with this. And I truly believe from development expenses, personally going through that and looking at what those costs are associated with as well, that you're going to see a big shift for families that are looking for smaller homes. And I know that always gets people worried, thinking that smaller homes are going to be cheap and inexpensive homes, but you're really not going to see new construction homes under $300,000 if this kind of change is not made. So that's kind of my input for you guys. If you have any questions about anything pertaining to that, I'm willing to answer what I can.
Well, we appreciate your comments, Eric, and it's always good to have you here as a key member of our community. Do we have other questions for Eric?
Yeah, Eric, what's the current cost per square foot to build a home?
We're at about $185 a square foot. A year ago, we were about 95 to 100.
So basic math on an 1,100 square foot house, we're not doing it for under 200K. Right.
No, it's impossible mathematically, even if you were to put it on a slab. What means slab meaning not having a foundation.
Does 185 per square include having a foundation?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for 1,100 square foot house, and it doesn't include the land.
It doesn't include, that's just your material cost, guys.
That's
Not
for every-
including development, right?
Right. Not including fees, not anything, right? That's
Yeah, not your permits, not the cost of the lot, not real estate commission, not the builder's profit, none of that. It's just true hard cost, materials and labor.
Yeah.
what's our current inventory look like in Smithfield?
There's currently 6 active homes for sale in Smithfield School District.
Eric, would it be fair to say that when they do come on, they're gone real quick?
Yeah, we're selling homes basically within the first day of putting them on the market. And typically seeing multiple offers, and really at all price points. Lower price points homes are seeing anywhere from 5 to 10 offers, and I'm talking about lower price points, anything under 300,000. And then again, from 300 to 500, you're still seeing 1 to 2, 3 offers on a listing. I just listed a house this last weekend at 675 on small acreage in Smithville, and I had 2 offers within the first day of it being on the market.
Are most still going for higher than the asking price?
Yeah. So really anything under 300,000 is ran. But homes over 300 typically are coming right around that. But buyers are removing their contingencies for appraisal, inspections, and kind of removing those type of contingencies to make their offer stronger.
Mr. Craig, I followed your crystal ball, so to speak, in regards to construction and what that means for the city. You closed out by saying that we won't be seeing smaller houses, cheaply built, etc. Is there any activity in regards to low-income housing here at this point? Or is that not lucrative for developers? How does that work?
I mean, really, it wouldn't be lucrative for developers. Just the development cost to actually put in a developed lot is expensive as well. So that's challenging because, you're lucky if you can get a developed lot in for $40,000, depending on circumstances. It could be as high as, 70 just per lot. The scenario that we're seeing is that a smaller, I think that it's just going to be a shift because the market's going to take us to that direction. Mm-hmm. Is that people are going to be, their affordability is going to be, obviously is always key. And now this material costs are so high, it's just going to go in this direction. Now, keep in mind, and a lot of people have a perception that in 2008, 2010, when the real estate market collapsed, that homes, kind of corrected themselves and prices did too. I was selling new construction homes during that period of time, and the materials really never corrected themselves. Labor did. And so what you had is you had subcontractors that were merely trying to, work to pay for their home and put food on their table, but materials never really corrected. And so I do believe that lumber is going to go down, but once price points go up, you really don't see just these huge drops. And so I think we're going to be kind of stuck in this scenario for quite some time.
Thank you.
Eric, what do you attribute to the skyrocketing cost for materials? supply line disruptions, things like that,
Yes.
or?
I mean, most of it is supplies coming in. Obviously we're not getting lumber in from Canada like we were. COVID is a factor. And then also, I mean, personally, I do believe these mills just are not releasing the lumber like they should. I've read articles and seen places where these mills still have lumber, but there could be some price gouging. And then it's kind of the rule of thumb, once one supplier hears about increases and everybody kind of it's a domino effect and everybody starts to kind of, hit the consumer and press them. As long as interest rates are favorable and low, the consumer is still going to probably still be paying these prices.
There's some truck driver shortages too, aren't there?
I think it's just across the board. There's a lot of people that are happy sitting at home right now.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the biggest thing I want to make clear is that when people hear about smaller homes, they think the quality is different. But as you guys know, the home still has to be built per code, and so it just is a smaller scale of a product that the public's already receiving, which is a good product, and our inspectors do a great job ensuring that in my opinion, that the consumer is protected. So that's just the perception that people think is, oh my gosh, we're going to have smaller homes. But really what you're trying to do is give an opportunity for affordability for somebody to have a new home.
Mm-hmm.
Define affordable.
Well, what somebody can afford. Not trying to be a smart aleck, but I mean, you like I said, it's right now with the way pricing is, you will not see a single family new construction home under 300,000. Whereas, for years we saw new construction homes in the area, 200, 220 and those price range. I mean, you look at homes in Diamond Crest, they were actually $90,000 to $120,000 when they were built. You look at Wildflower, they were in the low 200s and got as high as right now they're reselling around 265. Again, I just don't see how it's possible. Well, it's mathematically impossible for anybody to develop a new subdivision and put a product in less than 200,000 on a single family home.
Well, this kind of flies up in the face of our efforts to provide housing for teachers and firefighters and policemen.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if there's no other questions for Eric, I think we can close the public comment portion and get to the board discussion piece.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's go ahead and close this public hearing then. And in order to allow us to discuss this issue, can I have a motion to approve this ordinance to amend these sections as discussed?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Who got that? You
I
get
heard
that, Randy?
I think Carmen got it first.
Carmen's quicker on the draw.
Carmen and Deb, I think I heard.
Okay, let's discuss this. What are your thoughts, Jack?
Real quick, I wanted to highlight, I put something different in the actual ordinance language. And it's the fourth whereas clause. And it's kind of the finding you guys would need to make on this. And this is directly from our code. Our code of ordinances say that the planning commission must give a statement to the board that they believe that these changes are necessary due to changing conditions of the real estate market and specific provision of the comprehensive plan. It tells you have to say why this is necessary to make these changes. So I've identified the changing conditions in the real estate market and the provisions of our comprehensive plan. Specifically in there, it talks about getting rid of the dwelling unit size issues in multifamily. So that was part of the conversation. I just wanted you to be aware there's a specific whereas clause in here associated with that finding. So that will ultimately, if you make a recommendation of approval of this ordinance as it sits or any other amended version, that will be the ultimate recommendation to the board from this commission that these changes are necessary because of these reasons. Okay?
Okay. Good thing you pointed that out, Jack, because we were all zeroed right in on that paragraph. So, what other discussion do you have there, John?
Thank you. Yeah, so I guess I'm obviously new to this, right? So I'm kind of trying to catch up here. This ordinance, really what we're doing is we're trying to reduce lot size requirements to allow more higher density housing subdivisions. Jack, right?
Yes, in part. If you look, John, there are two layers of changes. Number one being we're adding two new districts with this change. One is the R1C district with a 60-foot wide lot, and then R1D, which is a 50-foot wide lot. We currently have a R1B is our smallest single family lot, and it's 75 feet wide. Unless you go through a comprehensive conceptual plan overlay district process, or you mixed use things. So with this version, these two versions will, if you recall during my staff report, I've mentioned the inclusionary, exclusionary zoning stuff. This is a way to move us toward more inclusionary zoning to allow multiple markets in the same area. And as we discussed at the March meeting, if there's concerns about the density getting too much in a certain area, one way or the other, I want to highlight that any of these new districts that go in, they have to have this board make the 8 findings of fact on a rezoning that all of the neighborhoods find, all those things that we currently use to keep those in. So whether someone wants an R1D or an R1C or an R1B, it's based upon how that would impact the houses around it. Usually that impact, to be quite frank, is when you have people come in opposition, it's usually because they're afraid it's going to drive down house values. And I think Mr. Craig highlighted it fairly well. Don't really see that as a problem anymore, because the new houses are going for a lot more than the previously owned houses. So, because you just can't build them anymore at that price. But ultimately, so you have that layer of issues, and then we also have a dwelling unit size requirement. You've heard 1,100 square feet minimum. Your specific subdivision, I think 1,600 feet with the HOA rules. And that dwelling unit size kind of is applied in the single family homes for 1,100 feet. In multifamily, we had it at 900 feet for an apartment. And that is a massive apartment. And I think it probably is one of the reasons why we don't have many apartments in Smithville. And that's because if you had to have a minimum apartment size of 900 square feet, that's a big one. That's a big apartment. The information I provided at the March meeting also showed that dwelling unit size of 900 feet for an apartment was the average 3-bedroom apartment size. It was in that range, 2 to 3 bedroom apartments. So getting the housing for the firefighters, the teachers, that kind of interlevel market, smaller single, studio and 1-bedroom apartments would be necessary. At that previous meeting, the commission's general discussion points rolled out to, let's set it at 500 for multifamily. That's a decent sized studio, 1-bedroom would work. And it gives the apartment developer the ability to go to bigger units if they want, but they can also put in the market stuff of 500 square foot. And we made adjustments across the board in all of the districts. For example, in the R2 district in our current code, there is no dwelling unit size. You can go as small as you want in the R2 district, which is a little odd that you can have a tiny little home in the R2 district, but you couldn't have the same thing in the R3 district. So we've adjusted the dwelling unit sizes across the boards and added 2 new lot size changes to kind of address those issues.
So let me ask you real quick. So the majority of our homes that are being built today are built on zoning that is a requirement of the 1,100 square foot. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes, the single family.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm. We're talking about affordability and how just normal people, that work these jobs, that are critical to us. They can't even live here. And I appreciate, fixing the lot issues, but I mean, if a house can't be built cheaply, under 300,000, what's this 1,100 going to do? I mean, so my thoughts are, I mean, should we, maybe you guys have already done this, but I'm curious. I mean, is there other options that we can do to maybe reduce that? Or is there some other option that needs to be put up? Like, let's say someone wants to just bring in and put a bunch of, like, I don't know, tiny homes. That's a new craze these days, right? Retirees like that, young kids like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious. I mean, what are some of those other options?
Well, to be quite frank, those would be options in some of the multifamily districts. That would be a reduced scenario. If you look at the R3 multiple family dwelling district, those minimum lot size or minimum dwelling unit sizes in that ordinance specifically changed somewhat. They went down to 1,000 feet if it's a single family attached or detached. Now, to the full level of what you're talking about associated with a tiny house, we don't have a district that would really go there, other than a tiny house being if it was in an apartment complex. That housing market underserved here, and that is kind of where this ordinance changes would direct those folks to be into a rental scenario in an apartment, smaller, to allow them to move into the other housing. That's been our problem in Smithville, is the diversity of potential customers. We've basically been in a scenario where we had only new people moving into Smithville because young folks that are from here that, getting out of their parents' house or getting done with college, they really couldn't come back in, and there was no place to rent. And I think Clay Creek's a good example of that. That place built 31 units of fourplexes, put them up in 18 months, and they're 100% rented. And they're not cheap, but 100% rented, immediately.
But and I understand, for apartments and things like that. But I'm just curious. I mean, Eric, what are your thoughts on that 1,100? I mean, if somehow you could squeeze more homes into a subdivision, I mean, would those be able to be marketed towards the lower income folks?
Yeah. So to answer your question, John, I see where you're going with this, and I understand where you're going with it. And I think Jack kind of hit it on the spot. What you're going to see is something similar that you saw in the 80s when interest rates were extremely high, and it caused affordability issues, and you saw a lot of multifamily. I mean, that's really when the duplex started going off, right? So I think that in order to hit a price point under 300,000, which I've been talking about, is really going to come with like a duplex style unit, which again is going to come into play for just affordability purposes. But what you guys are looking at approving here, in my opinion, is going to allow flexibility for developers to actually be able to put in more lots. A lot of people think that the lot size, meaning how big it is, it just means it's more expensive. The cost associated with developing a lot is all about the curb distance. That's where the utilities and that's where everything is. So having smaller lots, which is not a bad thing, is going to allow that lot cost to go down, which would then be more affordable for the consumer. And then secondly, the square footage size going down is going to allow, again, to hit a lower price point. So if I'm doing the math right, $1,100 at $185 a square foot is like 200,000, probably 203,000. If you get a lot cost down somewhere in the low 30 range, because it's smaller and it's not 60,000 develop, again, you're getting real close to hitting that lower price point with 1,100 square foot dwelling. So it's just trying to fill that void. And that's what I feel like is being put in front of you guys, is giving options for housing.
Hmm.
All right, thank you.
I just have to say thank you to John and Deb. I've really enjoyed the exchange and the concern for a certain demographic. I appreciate Mr. Gregg's position as well. But if this is an indication of the future, John, thank you so much for your enlightened questions. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I just have one comment. I would not lump all retirees into wanting a tiny home. This is one retiree that would rather, no, I'm not into tiny homes.
Yeah,
I've been in them and went, no, 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 no.
Yeah, I'm not trying to insinuate that at all. I just
Okay.
know there's, that's would seem like a likely group that would like to downsize and live like that. I have some aunts that just did that. So
And
that's kind of, that's, yep. Mhm.
And if I may, John, as well, and I apologize, I misspoke. In the R3 district for single family detached or attached housing, the minimum size in R3 district is 800 feet and 400, not 1,500. My error. So the dwelling unit size. So if somebody wanted that, you could put an 800 square foot tiny home if it was a single family attached or single family detached. You could do that in a R3 district with, like I said, 800 feet, and then the apartment size is 400, not 500. I had my memory going versus what is actually in the written ordinance, and I apologize.
Yeah, and on 800 square feet, that gets you at 148,000 building costs, which
on top of lot and everything else, yeah.
Yeah, but it gets you into the ability to go smaller, which then gets you into the savings area. And the districts are R3. So, for example, where Carmen's at in Ashmont, that's R3. But those places are well over 1,100 square feet each unit. So, when you're talking 1,600 to 2,400 square feet in that district, that zoning district would also allow 800 feet for a triplex multifamily scenario like that, townhomes, however you want to call it. So they could get substantially smaller.
Yeah, Jack, and I want to thank everybody on this board and staff for even indulging this. When I first brought it up to Jack, in the past, these conversations have not gone well. So thank you, everyone, for letting us at least talk through this. I think it's been a good discussion. I don't see 100 people here for public comment, which is also a good indicator that the community's willing to entertain this. So that's all my feedback is on this one.
Well, I think the city leaders have been very wise to bring this forward, because there's no doubt this is a void that we've got. And I think at this point we should call for a vote.
Is there any more discussion?
Well, one last thing. The mayor is a shining star as far as I'm concerned. If this is within your vision, Mayor, of our city under your leadership, then I'm with you on it. But without the caveat, it is controversial. But business doesn't have a heart. sometimes. But anyway,
Any other comments before we call for a vote? Go ahead then, Brandy.
Okay, Deb,
Aye.
Mayor Boley,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Alderman Chevalier,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Carmen,
aye.
and Rand.
Aye.
7-0.
Okay.
This ordinance, along with the other one we voted on earlier, will be before the Board of Aldermen for first reading next Tuesday night.
Excellent. Okay. I have number 8 on the agenda. Adjourn. Is there any, can we call for a motion for adjournment?
Well, prior to adjourning, I just want to let you guys all have a heads up. The Parks Master Plan is wrapping up. That'll come to the Board of Aldermen in June, hopefully. As you've all served on this board for a little while, except John, we'll probably go through some of those items and make sure that planning and zoning approves those, because new amenities added to parks need to go through this board, right, Jack?
Yes, sir.
And there may be some coming sooner rather than later. So just giving you guys a heads up, that plan is online. We are still taking comment. It's a pretty progressive plan for our parks department. That's about a $15 million spend over 10 years. And we've got a few items coming in on that. And yeah, some more development coming along, right, Jack? We got some land
Yes.
purchases that happen in town, and we're going to see some stuff move really quick, I think.
Yes. And I will, as a final note, and I apologize for not saying it during staff reports, since our last meeting, the Main Street Trail from downtown out opened, and all the grass is growing. So it looks really nice. And currently the streetscape phase 2 from commercial to the trail is under construction now. So that's looking like September for it to be done. So you'll be able to go from City Hall to Smithfield Park on a either biking or walking, completely safe, off the road, once you get to Liberty Street, and it looks really nice. So that has caused a lot of buzz in the community of development. And I'd like to thank all of you guys for being involved in kind of changing the tone of Smithville with the comprehensive plan. That's what did it. The public and your input made it clear this is where the public wants to go. And I think the mayor's point as it relates to the Parks Master Plan, get on there and provide your comments as associated with it before it closes, because you guys provided great input in the comprehensive plan. And I think if you do it here as well, it will really benefit the community.
Yeah, and a couple items that you guys had approved, Healthy Park, we talked about doing a shelter there a little while back. That's done. Kiwanis built it. They've got a few things they want to add. They're going to cut the ribbon in July, but the shelter structure itself is done. It's not a metal pillar, metal roof shade, cheap shelter. They use cedar, and as Eric was mentioning, lumber costs have not gone down. It's cedar and steel. They spent a lot of money on it. It looks really nice. So if you haven't been out to Helvey to check that out, the playground's in, and then we're getting ready to do the basketball court that Alderman Chevalier has been dreaming of for a while. So all things this board is taken care of. So.
Well, this is what's satisfying about being on this commission. I'm excited to get a bike on that trail. Is there anything else you'd like to bring up before we adjourn?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Then can we have a motion to adjourn? Deb?
Deb?
Second.
Okay, Carmen, second.
Carmen? Okay, voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night,
Appreciate
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.